Okay, so this is how to take a full sheet. You can't see the whole thing. This is a full sheet of board and begin to trim it down so that you can use the board cutter. If you are remote or cannot use a board cutter, you may simply use a utility knife. Make sure that your blades are nice and sharp. So, you know, if you're taking this home to your dorm to work with, make sure you grab one of these from the drawer to the right of the sink that says cutting tools. Make sure that is sharp. So just like everything else, we have to be mindful of grain. Unfortunately, this camera is picking up these little hash marks and they kind of are zigzags, but by and large, the general orientation or direction of those goes this way, okay? So that means that you would want to orient your book, the spine of your book is going to want to be aligned with the grain, okay? The grain of your board. Now, like I mentioned the other day in class, if you grab a new piece of board, what I just did, it's kind of hard to see, but I just drew an arrow and I'm gonna do that every about 3 inches along this whole piece. Because sometimes after the pieces get smaller, it can become challenging to tell what direction it goes in. Okay, so when you are grabbing a new piece of board, that is the visual cue that the direction is running this way. Another, you know, quick way is that the grain runs along the short side of the board. Okay. So I've got this marked out. I'm going to measure out my book and find out how big I need my boards to be. Okay, so traditionally, you want to measure the widest measurement. So on this, my flag out here goes out to 16 centimeters. And my absolute height is 24.6. Okay, make sure you write it down, make sure you write it in pencil. Okay, so those are gonna be the dimensions of my boards. They're gonna be cut exactly to size. If you want to cut it differently because it's part of an idea or a concept, that's okay. You need to be able to talk about that decision during critique. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make sure that the board is cut square. So I don't need a piece quite this large. I am just going to trim this down. And I'm working on, I'm gonna go ahead and trim it down to this size. So this is kind of arbitrary, but I need to get 2 of those covers. I need them both to run this length. So I can do 2 side by side if I give myself enough room, or I can probably do one on top of the other. So let's just make sure that I can do that. Yes, I've got plenty of room to do that. So first I'm gonna cut this board. I've aligned my board to the edge of the grids that are on my cutting mat here. Okay, so you're gonna take that knife, where did I put it? It might take you a few passes, and that's okay. Make sure your fingers stay clear. 1, 2, 3, 4. My 5th pass got it through. Okay, so that is fairly normal for this process. If you're doing this at home, expect to make about 5 or 6 passes with your blade before you can get through that board. Okay, and if it kind of sticks a little bit, you can just kind of tear that little piece. Now I've got this other large piece that I'm going to put over with the other board so that someone else may use it. It's well marked. Okay, and on to making sure that I've got a square edge. So this edge, you can see that this edge is kind of, looks like it's kind of been torn or broken. It's a little bit kind of fuzzy. This edge is manufactured cut. One would assume that the manufactured cut is square to another manufactured cut. However, because it's torn, it's always going to be a good idea for you to make your own square edge. So you can do this with the board cutter, or you can do this with a utility knife. So I am going to draw a line. It's rare that I draw lines to cut, but my ruler doesn't quite extend to where to the other side of this board. Okay, so you see what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to draw a line, and then I'm going to extend that line. I am squaring it right here, right? So I lined it up to this, and I'm squaring it to this hash mark right here, all the way over to the other side. And then I go ahead and cut. So that is how you safely trim, hand trim Davy board and go ahead and make a square edge. If you are working remotely or don't trust the board cutter. The board cutter is fairly simple to use, but it's a little bit nuanced. And so if you're having trouble there and you feel comfortable cutting it by hand, this is how you do it. Now from here, I can start measuring out. Okay, if I have these little bits sticking off, make sure you take your scalpel, use the right tool for the right job, use your scalpel and trim those little bits off. They'll come off much cleaner and much quicker with your scalpel.